I want to test the image tag because the iframe might work even if they deny it in the image.
So the same ID image.
Yeah, but it's just unfortunately the HTML image is just IMG.
IMG.
Yeah, I guess I can make a fix
Like
for
that?
it sometime. Yeah. You can place it, but you got to set the source in the next line. But you got to end with a colon instead of the comma. Equals.
Yeah. What colon?
Button line 9, not 10. Because you're setting the value, so you're done with that. But no colon there. See how like line 13, there's no colon with the JPEG. But your image tag has to say there's more stuff underneath. No comma. No comma there either. It's not. Yeah, you didn't say anything afterwards. So you see the image behind?
Yeah.
Because you built it first in 9, then you built the iframe.
Yeah.
But if you switch the order, then the image will be on top of the iframe.
So it's like the background.
Yeah. And it auto size. Like the image tag has a property of being the size of the image when you load it. But you can say width equals 100%. And it'll stretch it. Like in your image. You got the buttons, you got on click,
Yeah.
and you got a iframe that could take a new address. So when you click your weather, it goes to the weather address. When you click on your flyers or whatever, it goes to an address that has flyers on it. It's a pretty simple start.
Yep.
But you got to change the frame each time you click the button.
Right.
So you got to know how to change, like you got to access that frame from the button, so you got to name the frame. Like you got to. So right now you got iframe on line 12, comma, which just makes a blank iframe.
Yeah.
It's good there if you set it there, but if you're going to set it somewhere else, you got to give it a name so you know how to get back here.
Right.
So you got to go iframe, like you start with the name, and you can.
Like weather.
No, this is the layer that has weather right now, but it's not always going to be weather because sometimes it's going to be flyer when you hit flyer. So it's just the frame. So at the beginning of line 12, give it an appropriate name like a web browser.
Mean, maybe. How's that? Mean?
Mean, sure. And go comma.
Mean area or comma? I can name it anything.
Yeah, you can change it later. Pretty simple. Now, the only problem is iframe, it doesn't understand that because it's like iframe what? It understood it if it was at the beginning because the beginning has special indications like you start off with the type or name.
Yeah.
But as is with iframe and just comma, you got to say iframe type or even tag if you want. Like
Tag?
Yeah, space tag. Yeah, okay. Works. There's a couple words you can use. You can also use type or tag.
Type? Maybe I'll do it into the video.
Yeah, type TYPE. Well, I'm choosing with those words. If you can think of a better word, I can always add it to the list of possibilities.
So what was the other one?
Tag, because it's an HTML tag, and iframe is. Alright, now you can go main.source equals whatever inside those on
Right here?
clicks for each button. No, you're done with the iframe. It's named, so now we got to look for the buttons that you're pressing. So look for the flyers button.
Flyers. Okay.
Yeah. So that's where it is in the running code. Where is it in the source code?
Right here.
Or
Right
inside the on click even. Just forget about that stuff for now.
Right there?
Yeah. Go main. Same way you spelled it before. I mean, like capitals and stuff. Yeah. That's how you did it before. Go dot source. Or SRC, sorry. Equals.
Space, I guess. Like that?
Yeah. And then this is where you tell the new path to whatever flyer website you find.
For
But
now, we'll just use that's.
yeah, once you got the working program.
We'll just use this one. Do I need brackets here?
Brackets or a period at the end.
The column? I mean, these things?
Yeah, quotations.
Or a period?
Yeah, you can have a period at the end which will wrap it with quotations.
With the weather, I gotta go back to weather.
Yeah, it'll be a similar process, similar line to 61 for all the buttons. Try adding a period to the end of that line just to show,
This one?
yeah, or just how it gets rid of the quotations.
Like that?
Yeah, you don't even have to end with a slash for the website. It doesn't change it, but it's not necessary. So that one is. Our line 16, it looks like you're setting a variable there, and if you weren't inside of something that is expecting the word background there, it would have just created a variable called background. But you're inside of a layer that and a style of that layer that has background as part of its continuation from that point. So there you're setting the background of the current layer. But what we got to do is create a new variable that's not part of any style or layer, like so we can't name it left or top or width or background size. So we got to make a variable, and it has to be a unique name. So JavaScript and all the built-in stuff starts with lowercase letters. So if you start your variables with capital, it's not only more proper in the English type theme, it's won't conflict with JavaScript and other things. So make your variable similar to line 16, but And the job of this variable is to remember what
Can I
button you
call that
pressed.
like buttons or buttons?
Button pressed, or like it's going to remember what button was pressed. So that's the mission. You can name it whatever you want, but you should capitalize the first one just to show that it's your own, not JavaScript. Okay. Now you got to set it to a default value. Say like,
No, it's good. Oh, I guess it's good.
just go equals 0.
Okay.
Or false, maybe. Because you're going to have an if statement, and you're going to say if there's something there, then set it back to defaults. Okay, now in your buttons, when you click, you're going to set button press to that button, and you use that using the word this. So you'll say button press equals this inside the on clicks.
Where did I do that? Right here? Or in the
No, that's just creating it and setting the default now in the on clicks, like line 26.
Yeah.
Like that's where it starts. Now this is where you would update this variable
Right
to the
here?
current, yeah. Similar, except for instead of 0, you'd use the word this in small letters, which points to this button pressed, like how you've written it up on line 17,
Yeah.
equals this.
Right here?
Yeah.
So that.
Yeah, now that works. So when you press that button,
Yeah.
that variable is going to remember that that button was pressed. So the next time you press a button, you can check to see what button press was. Or like you can go button press dot style dot, like you can set it back to its normal stuff. It's not doing anything right now, but on your next click it will. Like now it's just going to remember the last button you pressed, but the first time you pressed it, it doesn't have to hide the button you pressed before. Like they're all set to black. See how now they're kind of set to red?
Yeah, yeah. So now we got to send all the black.
You got to do that for each on click because you want
This?
it to remember. Yeah. So right
This
now
here?
it's only useful if that's in all the on clicks of all your buttons. And yeah, it should be. Maybe just do the next one for now, or the next button,
Yeah.
and then you can try them back and forth, and you'll see the effect.
Oh, yeah.
Alright. So now when you hit every button, they just all just change to red or whatever.
Yeah.
Now what you do, so the first time you press any of the buttons, it's okay because they're all black and you want that one to turn red. But then when you hit the button the second time, you want the one you just had selected. Like so if you hit shop, turns red. So
Yeah.
far so good.
Yeah.
Now when you hit classifieds, shop or subry or the one you just clicked should turn back to its original color.
Right.
So when you do hit the second one, that's where you got to say if pressed button is not 0, like meaning that it's not the first time you press the button, it's the second time because it's 0 the first time.
Yeah. So now it's 1.
So yeah, above, like it has to be above where you set it to this. You need an if statement
up here?
inside the on click.
Oh, yeah.
Say line 26, but above that line though. Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Capital I for if. And you can say button press, but it has to be proper capitals and
The way it is.
yeah. Okay. If you want to sound it out properly, there is a shortcut, but you can say is not 0 because your default is 0. They help explain it.
How do I type that?
IS, not NOT, 0, colon, other type of colon, enter. Now, so now it's going to do that body, like where you are right now.
Yeah.
Not the first time you click, but the second time. Like, I mean, it's only going to do that if it remembers the last thing you clicked on. It's not doing anything yet, but where your blinker is, or like in line 27, that's where you'll say button press dot style dot color.
Right here?
Yeah.
Button press. Dot style.
Yep. Dot color equals black with the period at the end, or if you want to wrap in quotations. You gotta have a space in it. Okay, which one?
That's button 0, eh?
Okay, yeah, so that's login. So try shop or whatever. Okay, now try login. See if see how it removes. The weather goes back to black.
Yeah, not so bad.
No, because you've only applied that to one button, that if statement. If you apply that if statement to every button now, they should all work.
How come it works for weather then?
Oh, it'll change what it was. When you click on login, because that's the one we just adjusted,
Yeah.
login checks the variable of what you hit last, which happened to be weather, and it sets its color back to black. So it's the login that's correcting what you clicked on previously.
Why is that linked to weather then?
Not particularly weather, you hit shop, it'll do the same thing there. See it's red?
See
Oh, that's supposed to work there. Oh, it might be the way you're toggling these things too. Yeah, see, like you're also changing the color too. With if you're toggling them back and forth.
Oh yeah.
So we got to correct that too.
Oh yeah, it did turn black. See, it's red. We just said turn black.
Yeah.
See, somebody was red before. See.
Okay.
If it's red, you can turn black. Eh?
Yeah.
Oh, that one didn't turn black.
Yeah. Maybe we're missing the equals this in that one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, missing.
This line here.
Yeah.
Oh, this one.
But now you have them toggling in a different way. Like the if that's in there with all your functions or your events, it could be adjusted as well.
So it's red, it's black. So yeah, red, it's black.
Yeah.
Red, it's black.
The value of a variable. Just means memory.
But it just does the last one though.
It's like computer memory.
But if they all did it, it wouldn't be a problem, right?
Yeah, that's right. They all need that extra if statement. Actually, yeah, it might work out.
What statement is it? Up here more.
Yeah, it's on first one here. 0 button name 0, 27, 26 and 7. Right above your see if we can fix that. Oh, you got an if that's
Better?
yep. Just hit enter. And you're not stuck to just changing the color. You can do other things to it as well. So no point setting it black because it doesn't exist yet.
So now if this equals this.
This is just like pointing to the layer, so you can go this dot style dot color, but I set it up where you kind of start inside of this. You don't have to write the word this all the time, but if you look at JavaScript, you'll see a lot of this dot whatever everywhere. So now it's not 0 now.
No, it's this.
Yeah.
This is.
It's pointing to this button in this case.
Why? So it's the button.
Yeah.
Whenever you click,
Yeah.
color goes red. Now why? Oh, when I click somewhere else, that goes back to 0. So 0 equals.
Yeah. Well, look, the on click looks the same everywhere else, but imagine that as the next button you click.
Yeah.
Line 27.
It is 0, so it is black.
Well, no, it's not 0 this time.
No, but it was.
It's 0 the first time,
Yeah.
but then the second time it's not 0. It's the previous button.
Well, it's 0 now because I click here. That would be 0. It's back to 0. Right? What? If I click here, classifies turns to 0.
No, classifieds is always changing from one this to another this. It's only 0 before you click on any of them.
Oh, so now it's. Okay, 0 is just the default.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just,
So now they're all 0.
yeah, now they're all 0
So now it's this.
of that button. So it's the weather button.
Yeah. Well, we could do this one.
Now it's well, that button.
Is this button 0? Wait. Yeah, button 0.
Because you can't go button dot or like button press dot style if button press is 0. Like 0 dot style doesn't mean anything.
Where did I do that? Button press dot stuff. Why?
Yeah,
If it's not 0.
yeah, if it's not 0, then it's going to be an object of the last this or the last button.
Okay, everything's 0.
So line 28 does not happen the first time, but line 29 does happen. Like it's not inside the if.
Yeah. So button equals this when I push it, right?
Yeah.
So that's what the button equals, right?
Yeah, the memory thing that we called button press now is pointing to the login button. Because we need to change that red login button right now back to black when we hit something else. And when we hit something else, it will look exactly like that. It will ask the same question. Is button press the memory thing? Is it not 0?
Not. So it turns red just because I clicked on it.
You can change the question into something that makes more sense. Like it's a double negative there sort of thing. You can get rid of the double negative by saying, is the button press an object sort of thing? Instead of saying, is it not 0?
So as long as it's 0, it's black, right? So how does it go back to black?
Alright, so now it's red and button press equals login, logout button. So now if you clicked on shop,
Button clicks on.
that stuff's not too important. That's
Well,
just kind of changing the
That's
text.
the text.
Yeah. So really we're just interested in the four top lines. So on the next button you press, it's going to go through the same question. It's going to say, is button press 0 or not, or whatever, like it's asking that sort of thing.
So no, it's not.
Yeah, it's not, because
No,
you had
it's
login
this.
before.
Yeah.
So you got to set that one back to black, and then you got to update the button press that now the new one.
How does it know to turn the other one back to black though?
Oh, the line 27 is the. Is that a little glitchy? Yeah, you got to remove the lines like 121, 117.
These ones colored black.
Yep. You made the real version, but you still have the old version in there. And all the functions that are in the ifs. A color equals red should be after button pressed, because if it's the same button twice, you know, it's going to set it to red, but then the last button you pressed was the button you're pressing.
So it should be in here?
No, like say in line 64, or just as long as it's after line 63.
Here?
Yeah. That's right. Amateur mistake.
Here?
Yep. Because it's your lines inside the if statement that are resetting it. So you got to reset it and then force it to equal red no matter what. Oh, line
It should be
26 is wrong there.
Right here.
'Cause that should be after the if.
Yeah, I knew there was something wrong with that. But and it should go where? Right here.
Yeah. As long as it's after the line that has color equals black. Actually, yeah. Normally you don't need it. It causes glitches if it's there. Pretty much the way you want it.
Opening comment would mean it's not being read by the computer. So this is where you put your comments or anything not read by the computer.
Well, read by the programmer, for the programmer.
Oh yeah, for the program. And that's where you close it. So that's the opening, closing, everything in between is not read by the computer.
It's good for toggling or enabling and disabling code without deleting it.
And for comments too.
That's actually the code that is going to send the signal. Listens for all sorts of signals, and it just happens you're just listening to one right now.
Yeah.
But that plugin file is about 10 lines of code of just loading the Google API that sets up this geolocation.
So it goes with this, eh? It's
Yeah.
all part of the same.
So it calls geolocation, and it sets parameter 1 to the object that has .city, .region, and whatever, or par1.
Par1 is your variable,
Yeah.
which it gets from here, right?
Yeah, it just means parameter 1. And you got parameter 2 in some cases.
So we'll use that later.
Line 14 is saying you're making a layer and you're naming it main. And then the first property is saying it's an iframe tag.
That's this body here.
Yeah. Which allows you to just point a web address to it and it'll load it like a web browser.
So the background's black only when this ain't loading, right?
Yeah. So it's always loading, so you can get rid of the black background.
Now what would happen if it didn't load? Or let's say,
Be transparent then. That source has 2 tabs at it in the beginning. It doesn't need 2 tabs.
one.
Yeah. It's inside the main iframe.
So background red here. That's this background.
Yeah, the whole body.
The whole body. I could put a picture back there if I wanted to, right?
Yep.
So that's what this kind of thing. No, that's. Oh yeah, it's an image.
That's an image layer, but you can also put an image in the background of any other layer. 10 and 11 is some image. You probably don't need that anymore.
Main, that's your main body. Is that
Yeah, that's your main frame, like your main browser.
this?
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
your web browser inside of a browser.
So you made an iframe.
Yeah, that's the type of tag you have to name it to have that feature.
To link to websites.
Yeah,
It has to be an iframe.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, it could be a normal frame, but then normal frames you got to split your screen in half or something like that. Where an iframe you can make a box.
It's 12% here.
12% from the left, yeah. Or over.
It's 11% here.
7% from the top.
Oh yeah, of your whole screen. And then
Of whatever parent.
Then it's 85% across, starting at the 12%, right?
Yeah.
And then you want to go right to the bottom, or that's how it's set. So I say 100%.
Yeah, but really it should be like 89%, because 11% plus 89 is 100%.
Well, that's why I got the
A little scroll
bar here.
A little quick fix there.
Here?
Yeah, so there you can go 1 or 2 pixel PX border.
How do I put color in?
Border is the name of it, and 2 pixel solid is the value. So you can have a value of 2 pixel red solid or 2 pixel solid. Like, just put the color in there somewhere. As long as border is at the end. Border is what you're setting here, so you can have a red.
Red border?
Yeah, just have to have space red.
Like that?
Yeah.
That's all?
It doesn't have to be solid either. You can say words like dashed or dotted or inset or outset.
Right here?
Yeah, instead of solid. So try dashed because it's a money saving, maybe green dashed. And instead of solid.
Dash, D-A-S-H.
ED, I think. See it?
Yeah, it looks like a coupon though.
Isn't that money saving?
That loads up when you load a new. Okay, so line 14 now equals the picture of a $sign, which we got off Google. Button press equals 0. Means it's this. And what this is whatever you click on, that object equals this. So when you click on this, this equals button press. Button press is your variable. Your variable starts off at 0.
When it's 0, it fails to do that black thing on line 26. Like, no, every one you click on sets it to red. But the first one you click on doesn't set the previous one to black. Because it doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
When you first refresh it, right now, there's no previous one yet. Because you haven't clicked anywhere. So that'd be a glitch if you say, previous one, go back to black. So that's why you gotta check.
Where's the previous one?
Yeah.
So it says if there is no previous one, it's 0,
Yeah.
which is right now, when you first come here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So setting it to 0 is like saying there is no previous. You can't set, so that prevents the set previous button that you pressed back to black, which would glitch out or would be an error.
So line 16 is our title of the page, just some text in the center of the page at the top. Can't see it because it blends in with the background, and we could change the text to anything.
Stretching monkey.
Button names refers to each button and starts off as button 0, like a button 1, button 2, button 1, that's where it gets its name, that's where city gets its name, that's where weather gets its name. So all these names refer to the buttons in the order that, according to what we set the button name to be. Button name 1 will get the text city. So we could change city to Mooses.
And it works. It changes. You're explaining line 19. So button is an HTML tag.
And this is button. It's a tag. And this is where I put it. 0 from the left, so it starts right at the mark, right where the page starts. 12% down, so it's just 1% lower than the iframe. 10% across, and this button is 7% high. Of the whole page, it's 7%.
Yeah.
So that way when we do weird scrolling effects, it stays proportional. 22 pixel font size is how many pixels high these fonts are. But this particular one refers to this button. So the text comes from line 19. Log in because it's button 0. 0 is the first one. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 0 is login. This button name, which is,
Or the array.
I guess I call it.
In line 19, you're creating an array or a list. In JavaScript, you call them arrays.
Button is the HTML thing. You ever described it?
Yeah. Line 20 is a button layer. Line 19, button names is a list of strings or words.
The font is 22 pixels high, and it gets its text from line 22, referring to this list. And where it happened to be button 0, so it gets text 0, which is logged in.
Minimum width. So it means if you resize your thing so it's really, really small, your buttons won't get any smaller than 100 pixels.
That's the minimum width there.
Yeah.
100 pixels. So when you scroll in, it doesn't get any smaller.
Yeah, but it will get bigger. See how it's bigger than... You can also use maximum if you wanted to get a little bigger, but not too big. You know, like stretch it a little bit. Then you get pretty
only
precise.
stretch it this much.
Yeah. Very similar, but MAX. So use the minimum as the first the number and then max. No, the number before the word.
Oh yeah, see.
So login, yeah.
Because it only refers to that button. That's why you can see it there.
That explains the minimum and maximum a little bit.
And these refer to the border radius of the buttons. We got 7 pixels giving us at opposite corners, giving us our rounded corners. Or in a function somewhere saying on click, do the opposite. That's why we're getting these little corner effects. Here's where it switches.
Oh, that's an array.
So, and then you just pick the number in the array. So number 0 equals text login.
You'd say element number 0 is login of the array button names.
Then when I click on it, on this, so it knows on click this button, the color goes red. Until I click off it, then it goes black. And when I click on it, it knows what website to go because of this line, main.source. So when I click on it, it goes to server. Click on the weather, it goes to the weather.
And main points to line 11.
Yeah.
Well, kind of like line 12. 11 and 12.
And these two lines do the switch in the text. See? If it equals this on the click, make it equal that. But name equals this text. So if enter HTML equals login, HTML should equal logout.
And the border radius gets switched.
Yeah, and then at the same time it goes click the other way. So on click, these little things go one way, and on next click they go the other way. Switch from this to that, which is log in. Log out, log in. And the rest is kind of a repeat of this button. So how would I make an image here?
Yeah, leave a red background equals red and add an image.
Underneath?
Well, the image will go over top of the red. You'd probably want to do it before main, where else will go over top of main?
Just shows money coming out of everything.
Red is the layer and image is a layer inside of the red layer. Instead of image equals that, you can go background. See how you got background equals red? You can say background equals URL and then that path. Parentheses, like the rounded brackets. And inside the path. And end it with a period or wrap it with quotations. You no longer need that image though. Line 13 and 14 are no longer there. Needed. Because you did it. Since you needed it, repeating the background is the best way.
So we wanted to remember last time you're on the site, what site you're on, what button. And we want it to be highlighted when you come on, or the button. Because right now when it comes on, like the weather channel comes on, but the weather button ain't on. That's our mission.
Right now we need to use something called local storage, which is the name for browser memory. If you keep going back to this, you'll remember it in the browser, but if you switch browsers, it's not going to remember.
Yeah.
To declare these type of variables, you actually got to name them a little differently. Before we get into that, we could reduce some code here because you're getting pretty heavy, down to almost 100 lines. Well, we could reduce most of these buttons. The top button is unique, so we'll leave the login button as is. But mooses to shop are all the same. Anything that repeats or has a pattern in it, programming is pretty good to make a loop or say make one type of button and repeat it 5 or 6 times. We can demonstrate the comment out button because you can comment out every button right now.
Almost every button.
Yeah, except for the top one.
Star?
Yeah. Yeah, star then slash. So the stars are on the inside. So we might still need some of that information, so we're commenting it out just for now and then deleting it later once we do clean it up. Since we want to loop through everything in button names, like you got a list or an array on line 19,
Yeah.
except for login.
Yeah.
So maybe we can take login out of that list
Oh, right here.
and then fix, yeah. No, button press equals that is alright. Yeah. You'll put in the literal words. And it has to be spelled exactly like it is up there. Or consistent at least. Yeah, you still need the colon for the declaring the body of the if. Okay, and on line 21, where you're setting the value of the button, that has to be updated to the literal string as well. So your login button should still work, hopefully. And that's without pointing to your button names 0. So you can erase it out of there. Yeah, mooses will become 0 by doing this. Alright, so now we're going to make a button for every name in the list.
In this list.
Yeah. And when I say list, yeah, it's interchangeable with the word array. We'll design one button and then we'll repeat it.
Oh yeah.
So you could probably start off with copying one of those, or even start the comments underneath that button. Alright. So now you got one button. Okay. Since we're going to have a loop and a body for the loop, and this button is going to be inside the body of the loop, because we're saying loop, but we want, loop means to repeat a chunk of code over and over again.
Yeah.
So we want lines 40 to 47 to be this chunk of code that repeats. Like we want to repeat
Yeah.
so many buttons. You're going to use the word loop to initiate the loop, but then you're going to use those lines there to be the body of the loop.
The loop here.
Yeah, and it starts with a capital L, just the way I set it up. Loop, and then the counter name. It's a list of button names,
Yeah.
and then each button name, this is what the variable is going to point to. Like it's going to be 0 on the first time around and 1 on the second time around. So you're going to use that variable to get to the...
So I need a parentheses? Or?
Well, this is just the name of the variable. So you have a choice here to what you want to call it. You can just call it anything. Be like the current name in the button names. It's like the page in the book sort of thing.
Button. Okay.
Or,
Is that okay?
yep. So loop this variable so many times, and what we want to do is say button names dot length times. So you got name there, but that's your variable. But what we want to do is loop it the number of times, the number of elements you got in line 19.
Yeah.
See there, you got 8.
Yeah.
You could just type in the word number 8, or you can say button names, like that name you had at line 19.
Yeah.
But it has nothing to do with this name here. This name is just going to be the variable that changes 0, 1. So it goes, but instead of names dot length, name is on its own, so a space after name. Yeah, it'll just take doing a couple of these to get how it goes. Now it's button names, because we're going to the array, the name of the array, but we want to know how many elements in that array. So dot length is how you get the number of elements in the array. So we're looking for the number 8. So it's it's on the left side of the dot. So you can use square brackets here to get access
Here
to the
or
button.
at the end?
No, there you would have a colon, just saying how you access arrays. But on the right side of times, put in a colon to indicate there's going to be a body of code that is going to loop or repeat. So you got a couple things going on. You are making 8 buttons. They're all placed on top of each other, and all their texts are pointing to the second element of button names. See button names brackets 1.
Yeah.
So instead of 1, you can use name, because name is going to change in each loop, each cycle of the loop. Yeah. And that's created on line 39. So all your buttons are being drawn on the same spot, like the position.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, so all you got to do is move them down. Like the first one doesn't have to be moved down, it's in the right spot, but the second one has to be moved down.
Yeah.
So make a new line underneath the,
Okay.
inside the button, but not inside the on click.
Here?
Yeah, that would work, or even above the on click, but either way works. On this line, we're going to set the top, because we want the distance, like this layer's top, like the distance from the top of the page to
Yeah.
increase. Okay, your current top is 19%,
Yeah.
and your current height is 4%. So we know the next button down should be at 19 plus 4, meaning like this one is at 19,
23.
and the next button should start at the bottom of the current one.
Yeah, so it should be 23.
Yeah. So you could say top equals 19, because that's where it currently is. I capitalize things, but built
Top
in
equals?
equals, yeah, it's just single equals. I go 19, because that's our starting position, plus 4. And here you go times the B name. In the first pass, B name will be 0. So it'll be 19 plus 4 times 0, which would be 19. And then the second time, it'll be 19 plus 4 times 1. But it's still not working, because top is expecting a string that has the word % symbol at the end or px at the end.
Right.
This is doing the right math, so now you got to add the % symbol at the end of it to make it a proper string for
So it's
the
a dot or something?
No, here you go plus and then quotation. But this plus is more of a concatenating strings, not really doing any more math on it.
Like that?
Yeah, and that should be. So if you times it by 5, you'd have a bit of a spacing. You'd have a 1% spacing between the block because you'd be pushing further down than its height.
Yeah.
Now we can update the focus method. Before we were using a variable, and that's what the if button press and button press, like all that could be replaced with on focus and on blur. So inside the buttons that we're generating, just similar to the on click event. So on focus and on blur will replace the on click.
Couple.
It's optional.
One of these?
Yep, because there will be a body. It's an event. And same thing with on blur. So on focus means what do you want it to do when someone clicks on one of these buttons or selects one of these buttons. Like it's an empty body now, but at least there's a body.
Oh yeah, I guess we wanted to turn red.
Yeah, when it's focused, right? And black when it loses it. Yeah, and pretty much the on click can disappear. Just hit backspace a couple times. Yeah. Well, the top button, we're not really affecting the top button yet.
Different button.
This is just the list of buttons you're creating underneath the top button. We'll update the top button as well. And there was other things you're doing, like the border radiuses were changing.
Oh yeah.
You can look for an example in your commented out code. Oh, there it is. But yeah, I can definitely see that. So you can pretty much copy lines, or like copy that button and use it in your login, because there's only a little bit different.
So on focus, we want this line there.
Yeah.
So I'll just turn it on blur. Or on focus.
Yeah. You can just use that one as a template to update that one up there. Well, when you focus, there's certain things you want done. You need to change it to black, but you don't need the variables anymore.
All this stuff.
Yeah. So you can move the if statements into an on click. Like see how when it's on focus you can't click it anymore?
See when it's red though, it doesn't change?
Yeah, that's what I mean. So if you put an on click underneath line 25, and put all those ifs inside the on click. And leave the on focus and on blur because they're going to change the red and whatever. But have the if statements.
So right here, on click.
Yeah, back up one. Because you're saying it's not changing it when you click on it. See, now it's doing it every time you click on it.
Yeah.
The only thing that you could add more to is your border radiuses. But see, in your on click you got the border radiuses kind of changing.
Here?
Did you want that effect, or did you want the same effect as the other buttons, that when it's in focus it changes the border radius?
Yeah.
So then just move that to the on focus, and you can erase that one because you already got one in the on blur. Yeah, those ones should start 0 because you want to switch it when you click on focus. That's just the top button. You'll have to do the same thing for the other ones in the loop.
What do you mean? All of them?
Well, that works for the top button. Line 20 is just for the top button, where line 41 is for all the other buttons.
Right.
But the same issue.
There. Okay.
That's pretty much what you wanted now.
That's perfect.
We can make another list. The first thing we add to the list will be the address that's associated with the Moose's button. And the second thing we add to the list would be the address we associate with the weather. You know, they'll have the same element number sort of thing. Since these addresses are going to be pretty long,
Yeah.
I'll show you how to make a list, multi-lined list. So it's very similar to do a multi-lined one, except for your square brackets will be underneath buttons and touching the wall. So, okay, we'll make a name called our button links, maybe. It's very similar to your button names.
Alright. So equals.
And then some square brackets, and then we'll start filling it in. But we're going to do multi-line, so you can have equals and then a space. Yeah, you have to put them in quotations though. Right, so hit enter right there. And then back, okay. Like on, in between the equal sign and the square brackets.
Here?
Yeah. Now hit enter there, and then delete, like get rid of that space. On the inside of the quotation, or in between the quotation and the square bracket.
Here?
Yeah, hit enter. Now hit tab. Okay, now we'll just put a comma at the end to add another one. And then we'll fill, actually this wouldn't be a bad time to go comma, quotation, quotation, comma, quotation, you know what I mean? Just because you're going to fill them in, and you're going to have to do this. So we got to do that for all 8 of them. So, and erase the last comma, because when there's nothing on, so now you can fill in your list with the addresses.
I want to do that one.
So this one will be for weather.
Yep.
Yep. But now you need them to actually switch the pages.
Yeah.
So there's an example of changing that frame to a new place. But now what we want to do is, in the looped version of all the buttons, okay, instead of text equals button names, we'll change it back. There's this problem with, we got to remember in and on click which button you're in, like which number. Like the first one being 0, the second one but that information gets lost. It's only there when it's creating it. It's not there in the on-click. So to remember, or to assign the first button as button 0, because we want to use that number to use it in those lists or arrays. So there is a way, but it's kind of a hacky way of doing it. Like, there's this hidden variable called _this, which refers to all the most recent layer, or the layer that it's in. So _this refers to button dot, and then this is where we create a variable, but we're associating this variable to this button. It's like kind of connecting it. We're making a variable, but we're making it so it's only in this button. So in the on-click, this number. So we're trying to remember what button name is, or B name. So this is going to be the variable that we'll access later in the on-click. So you can name it the same thing, B name, and then equals B name. It's like just kind of connecting it. It may be a little confusing to have it like that. So you can just say index, because really it's the index of the array. And then go equals B name. So now when we make it on click, we can just say index, and that'll be 0 for the first one and 1 for the other one, because it's kind of like freezing.
So where do I do my on click?
Just like the on focus and on blur.
Yeah, like right here.
Yeah, that's a good spot.
On click.
Yeah, colon, and then enter. Here you'd go main.source, kind of like you seen up there, small letter, just because you named it that way earlier, or when you.
Yes, or.
Yeah, it's the short way for source, I guess. And then here you go equals button links, or however you spelt it up there. Yeah. And then here's where you would, inside the square brackets, you'd put the index.
Index again?
Yep. That variable is set in the line underneath it when it's created, though. It's set when it's created, and here it's remembering it when you click on it. Otherwise it's forgotten. And I don't like showing the _this.
But you gotta do it right now.
Yeah. Later on it'll be something else. It's just if you're going to set something to a layer, you got to show the parent layer. The best way to do it is to use the _this. But anyways, now it should work. It should switch one to another.
Oh, that's stupid shit they put in.
Better links. Oh, I can't drag those. They're just links. So in your on click, we're going to have to tell the browser to remember this is it, or even in your on focus. Normal variables, you just create the name and then it equals its value. In the case of color equals red, that variable is already built into button.style or whatever. But so that one's not really creating a variable in that spot, it's just setting the variable that's already set. And there's a whole bunch of other variables that are in the styles and IDs, and like there's things that are in that layer. But for the most part, when you create a new variable, you just give it a name. So you could say color2 equals blue, and that'd be a new variable. But color is already set. Okay. Yeah. So line 35 is going to create a variable called color2
Yeah.
that doesn't exist until that moment.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful not to check to see if it's true or check its value until it exists. But we want to set a browser memory, not just a regular memory. So that's the proper way to set a regular memory, meaning that variable, when the people enter the web page, that variable doesn't exist yet. When someone first clicks on one of the buttons and they become in focus, color2 will exist. But with browser memory, you do have to create it one time, but when they come back, if it's already created, it'll already be there. So when they revisit the same page, and every page has its own memory to it, like Google can have their own browser memory, our sites can have their own, and YouTube can have their own. Well, anyways, so to declare a browser memory, I made a command called remem, R-E-M-E-M, sorry, color2.
Remem?
Yeah, a capital R, E-M, E-M, short for remember,
Yeah.
and then square brackets, and then inside the square brackets and inside the quotations is the name of your variable you want to declare. So if you wanted to use color2 as well, but really we're trying to remember something here. We're trying to remember
Button press.
which button was pressed. So we can name this variable what button was pressed, or what, like whatever you want to call it, but name it something. You can have spaces in this. That's what's great about these square brackets and quotations way of setting variables. And you're kind of forced to use this method here as well, is you can have spaces. So even if you want a space between the word last and button,
Yeah.
you can have a full sentence in here if you want. This is kind of the beginning of
Right.
how you can have spaces in variable names. But the color2 now is no longer appropriate, like, because that's the old variable name you had there. And the word green that's not really what we want to set here. Here we want to say, well, this one is your special case for your login. So you can just put the word login.
So now you gotta do that again.
No, well, yeah, we could. Same thing in the on focus for in the loop. Except for we won't use the word login, we'll use the word index, or the variable name, equals index. So now when you click on those buttons, the browser memory will have the number.
Should it work now?
No, we're just setting the variable, so we haven't used it yet. So the way we're going to use it is when these things get generated, like so far we're setting them when you click on them. So that'll remember, you click on something, you want to remember that that's what you clicked on. But when it makes it, because when they come back to the page it's going to remake it, that's when you want to check to see if the variable even exists, and if it does exist, if it's equal to the current button in the loop.
Yeah.
So if that last button pressed equals the current B name in your loop, then you can say that's the selected one. So right now the browser memory variable should have the B equal to 0, because your index is 0 because that's the first thing in the loop. So in your line 58 or 57, wherever you want to put it, but not inside any of the events, like go a new line, and this is where we'll use an if, because we want to kind of select it, like kind of show that it's selected by,
Capital I?
but not capital F. Actually, I got two ways of doing it.
Here you got remem equals this, but now we're just going to check it, so it's just mem.
So you don't have, because to me remem is used for setting it, and mem is meant for accessing it. Yeah, but you can just take out the re altogether. I got two versions of accessing. Yeah. And then the square brackets and the same variable name, last button press. Okay, we need to check first to see if it exists, because it doesn't even exist yet. So far the if that is going to see if it exists. Like if it doesn't exist, it'll be like 0 or null, like it'll fail the if.
Yeah.
But then we also got to check to see if that is equal to, if that's the same as like the current index. Like the line 57 is setting the current index, so like it's 0, 1, depending where in the loop.
Yeah.
So we got to use the word and, because we got to check something else. So space and. Same, now we got to check that, so you got to copy that again. We're going to compare it with this. Yep.
Full thing?
Yep. And then you go space is, and then index, then hit enter. Now in the body here, this is selecting it, sort of thing. You'd want to select it now, because you've discovered that that button, that variable exists, because there's only going to be a small amount of time, like first time visitors, it won't exist yet. So if it exists, you're a returning customer, and the last button pressed is index. There is one little problem we'll have to fix. But this is where you would have like the same code, color equals red, border radius equals. Well, these two lines, line 64 and 65,
Yeah.
they'd be pasted where your blinker is now, like your caret.
These ones?
Yeah. Because that's the code that shows that it's selected. Oh wait, this is almost ready to work.
Alright.
The only problem is index is the type of a number. Like it's actually a number, you can do math on it. It's B name is coming from line 52. And that is a variable that is a number that goes from 0 to 8 or whatever, 0 to 7, depending how many things in your list. Browser memory variables, they only have one type, which is a string type. So you're trying to say is this string 1 equal to this number 1? And it is almost like that, except for you got to say convert these both to numbers no matter what it is, and then the string version converted to the number version of it would be 1, and it would be like, it would be the, we got to convert the string version, that is the browser memory, into numbers. On the left side of mem, try the double tilde, but get rid of the parentheses, just two tildes. That's another way of forcing it into a number. So now see how Moose's is selected? That's probably the last one you had selected.
Then go back to color.
Oh, actually, there might be an easier way of doing this altogether. You might be able to just tell it to go focus. Your line 59 and 60, you can replace those two lines with the word focus and parentheses, which the parentheses means call the function called focus. Now that we're calling this function, we have to make sure that function exists first. So on focus is actually, you don't have to use the word on when you call it, but when you create it, you got to use the word on. Like focus is
So where do I create it?
well, you're creating it just a couple lines down on 62. So as long as the on focus, those lines are above 58, or 58 is below 60. Like you got to move those 58 and 59 to the bottom of the underneath on focus event. 62 to 65 has to move up, or 57 and 58 has to move down, or 58 and 59.
See. Wait.
Now you got on focus twice, but you only need it once.
Back to the weather.
Okay, let's see if you're setting the mainframe below.
Oh, right here.
Comment that out. Let's just see if that's it, or if we're setting it somewhere else. Okay, it's not being set at all, but it is turning red, like it's remembering the button. Let's see if you're changing the mainframe on the click or on the on focus inside your loop buttons. Because if it's on click, then that kind of makes sense why it's not being triggered when we tell it to go focus.
Right.
So scroll down a little bit inside your loop, because your loop starts at line 52. On focus. Okay, your on focus doesn't have your main source changing. So you have an on click. And you can erase the on click. That broke the button.
What?
You're not tabbed over.
Here?
The line you're just on, line 55. Well, yeah, you gotta erase the on click and you gotta have everything tabbed over where that line is not tabbed over right.
So I should do it?
Yeah. But now it remembers. So if you refresh your website, will it remember which one you were visiting?
Yeah.
So refresh it and it should be UFC. You can erase all that stuff now, all your comments, or that code. Oh. There, so we reduced it. You can erase. You can erase that stuff too, just to simplify it. We'll add it.
You can already get that?
Yeah, there's nothing there that's
Not saved before.
you can re-put in line 3 because that would be there. That's like if no one's been there yet,
Russian store.
and you can set that as whatever default you want, because it'll set it to that, but then right away it'll check the browser memory as it's creating the buttons, and it'll focus whatever button was pressed last, which will set